Sammy Guevara should be the one to retire Chris Jericho. Furthermore, he should be the one to retire Chris Jericho in AEW in the very, very near future. Because that is the rivalry, that is the feud that we currently have right now, with Jericho allying himself with Kenny Omega, one of his former rivals, to take on Don Callis' family, who now has, if I'm not mistaken, Powerhouse Hobbs in there, along with Takeshita and Guevara, all of whom are looking to make an impact in All Elite Wrestling. But the fact of the matter is, Chris Jericho is, 52 years old? And he's been active in the pro wrestling business for over 30 years now. Which is why, not only that, his matches, for the most part, he might have a few good ones carried by someone else, much like Will Ospreay carried him at All in London. But his matches suffer in quality. His promos are still top-notch. He's one of the best speakers in the business. He's always been one of the best speakers in the business. That will not change even if he does retire, which I'm pretty much sure he won't retire anytime soon. I'm pretty sure in an interview a few months ago, maybe a few years ago, he says that he will never truly retire from professional wrestling, which is a shame. But the fact of the matter is, much like Sting, much like Chris Jericho, these two men at least cannot go to the level that AEW and WWE, the big leagues, demand of them. Which is why they should take this perfect opportunity to finally put Sammy Guevara over that hump. Finally make him a main eventer within AEW, within pro wrestling. Can you imagine the pedigree that it would bring to Sammy Guevara's career, to his name, if he can boast the fact that he retired the great Chris Jericho? And he could finally get ahead from the other three pillars in that search to become a main event player, because you got MJF, who is the current AEW World Champion. He's a Triple B. In my opinion, the closest one to reaching that mountaintop is Darby Allin. The guy is popular as hell. He never disappoints in the ring. And his story, well, we need a few more chapters to get him to the world title picture, but Sammy Guevara, Jack Perry, who is MIA right now for obvious reasons, they still have to push them further up the card in a very strategic way. And the best way to do so is for Chris Jericho to give him that pedigree, to give him that accolade. You retired because Sammy Guevara, your self-proclaimed Spanish God, the very nickname you gave him, he retired you. Your protege retired you. And this isn't about ageism, even though it is a factor, because Father Time is undefeated. And much like The Undertaker, I said it in the past, The Undertaker should retire. He couldn't go as good or to the level that he used to be able to provide matches in WWE, and yet he kept going. That, in my opinion, tarnished his legacy. It tarnished his career. We all remember that fallacy that was, I believe, Crown Jewel in 2018 with DX against the Brothers of Destruction. That tag team match, that was a complete train wreck of a match. And every single time Chris Jericho gets in the ring, if it's not against the right opponent that can carry him and actually bring some psychology, which I will give him his props, Chris Jericho brings the most psychology to his matches when it comes to his opponents, because he was just trained that way. WCW, WWF, WWE. He has that factor to him, but he is still very, very slow in that ring. And we had that feel-good moment last night on Dynamite, backstage segment. Adam Copeland, Chris Jericho reunited, and it feels so good. Okay, Chris Jericho, in my opinion, needs to retire, and Sammy Guevara needs to get that accolade given to him to put him over the top. And even on top of that, AEW needs to structure their mid-card. They need to structure the way they push their superstars into the main events, into the mid-cards, into the championship pictures, because right now it just seems like it's willy-nilly. This guy's popular, throw him in there. That's ludicrous. In my opinion, it doesn't work. At least it doesn't work long time, or long-term, actually. It doesn't. It's a futile attempt to get people over in the worst way possible. And right now you got guys like Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Wardlow, who just returned, and apparently he's going to be doing the exact same thing that he's been doing for the past 2-3 years, which has gotten him nowhere. But again, we'll have to wait and see what kind of character progression change they have for Wardlow. But all of these characters, Powerhouse Hobbs, Miro, they're all stuck in this limbo that is AEW's mid-card, where they have nowhere to go. They can't go to the world title picture. They can't go to the main event picture. They can't fight for the mid-card titles. They're just in mid-card limbo, and it doesn't make sense. And the best way to do that is Sammy Guevara. Give him one of the biggest accolades you can give him currently in AEW, and that is to finally retire Chris Jericho. And I get it. They're trying to mimic Jericho and Shawn Michaels back in 2003, and Shawn Michaels was not even close to being retired at that point. He just came back from a career-ending injury. But Shawn Michaels 2003 is light years away in terms of wrestling quality matches from Chris Jericho in 2023. And AEW needs to really focus on putting their guys on top. And it's as simple as that. And again, it's a controversial opinion. Far be it from me to actually demand, I'm not going to demand somebody to retire, obviously, but it's just painful, for me at least, to watch Chris Jericho go out there and put on lackluster matches, much like The Undertaker and Kane and The Big Show did in WWE. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. Sports entertainment, pro wrestling, it's still a sport, even though it's also a lot of theatrics. It's also a lot of acting, which, you know, comes into play, but you still need to have the ability to perform at full force in that ring, and in my opinion, Y2J just doesn't have it anymore. So with that said, what are your thoughts? Where do you think this feud, this rivalry is going? Do you agree with me that Chris Jericho should be retiring very soon, and that Sammy Guevara should be the one to put him down for the count? Or do you think, you know, let Y2J go as far as he can? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below. In the meantime, tune in later on tonight to Access TV for another episode of Impact Wrestling. We have the build-up to Bound for Glory. Heck of a card. Will Ospreay's going to be a part of it. Josh Alexander versus Alex Shelley for the Impact World title will main event, and whoever wins that match will face off against Will Ospreay the very next night for possibly the world title if Alexander manages to win that main event. So with that said, I'm Alexis Carrillo. This has been Wrestling Talk, and I'll see you next time.